4060 review and public hearing. And that started as of 4:45, and we'll leave it open for 15 minutes till 5 o'clock till the regular scheduled meeting. So feel free to come up and speak if you need to.
Would it be appropriate, Mitch, if Barbara Sneed comes and explains just a little bit about that policy for us so that we'll know what we're listening for?
Swain County Schools Native American policies and procedures ensure that Native American students have equal access to all district programs, services, and activities as required under federal impact aid law. These policies guide consultation, communication, assessment, and continuous improvement in partnership with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians and parents of Native American students. This process also includes reflecting on how we can better serve the Native American students who attend Swain County schools and ensure their needs are being met. Swain County Schools consults regularly with EBCI and parents using their preferred methods of communication. Multiple opportunities for input are provided, including parent meetings, board meetings, surveys, and meetings with tribal officials. Swain County Schools has posted the Native American policies and procedures, including Policy 4060, on the website and shared them through social media, providing opportunities for public input. To date, no online responses have been recorded. The district is intentionally revisiting and reevaluating the expectations and requirements outlined in the Native American policies and procedures. As part of this review, several adjustments have been made, including clarifying the job expectations of Native American tutors. At the middle school level, the Native American tutor provides push-in support within core academic classes to assist Native American students. At the high school, the Native American tutor serves as a social studies teacher who also teaches Cherokee 1 and Cherokee 2 while supporting Native American students during part of her instructional day. At East Elementary School, the Native American tutor supports Native American students and provides instruction in Cherokee culture to all students.
Have any questions for Ms. Sneed about any of this?
I know that it's not open yet, but a request. I think there's some confusion that when we do the public statement, that some folks don't really know what that means. If we could include the next time that we publish the statement publicly for anyone to be able to come in and talk, that we have something like that underneath it,
Okay.
so that people understand a little bit more about why we have this meeting in this open forum
Okay.
for this.
Sure.
Okay,
Be great.
Great input.
Thank you for that.
thank you. I know it's going to be awkward silence, but.
Or for 10 more minutes. Yes.
We will have our joint board meeting with the tribe. What is that, coming up in March? I
March.
think we'll be hosting.
Yes.
So,
I believe it's our turn to host this year.
yes.
Do you know the date on that yet?
Don't know yet. Need to get with Superintendent Gertie and let her talk to her board. We'll start working on that right away. Okay?
And I just want to make sure that everything is really clear. It's an action.
Still reading on this thing?
Was Cody giving you the stare down for the last
No.
20 seconds?
I just hadn't looked at the last one.
It's time, man.
Yeah.
All right, good evening, it's 5 o'clock. Turn the floor over to Mr. Sell.
Want to recognize some of our best and then some for the month of December. So this evening, let's begin with Lillian Mae Gerard. Would you come up to the front? Stand right over there beside that microphone.
Good evening.
This is Lily. I'm Miss Jessica from Bright Adventures, and we definitely wanted to pick Lily as our character award. Do you want to come up here with me? Okay. All right, we'll get you situated. I try to do this without a paper, but it's a disaster, so we're not doing that again. We picked Lily because she is an eager helper. She's a great friend and a great leader. She's got a great imagination, don't you? Yeah. And she really does well with all of our kids. You can put her in any center, you can put her with any kids, and she's a great helper, and she's just wonderful with all of our friends. So we definitely wanted to recognize that. So this is Lily.
Lily?
Wait, come back.
Is Lavender Climbing Bear here? Come on.
So we faced you. I am so proud to introduce our December Student of the Month, Lavender. Lavender is an incredible student who brings kindness and positivity into our classroom every single day. She is always in a great mood, gets along wonderfully with everyone, and it is truly a joy to be around. Lavender is always willing to help others no matter what, and she shows leadership through caring actions and positive attitude. Lavender is also very smart and a motivated learner. She loves to learn. She stays focused, she participates in class, and she asks thoughtful questions that show how engaged she is. Her enthusiasm for learning is inspiring. When Lavender grows up, she dreams of becoming an art teacher, and I have no doubt she will be amazing at it. She has such a creative spirit and, again, a kind heart. I'm so happy to have Lavender in my class, and I'm incredibly proud of all that she does. She truly deserves this recognition.
Chloe Chapman, I think I saw you come in.
Hi everybody, I'm here presenting our Best and Then Some award to Miss Chloe Chapman. Chloe is a very hard worker. Every day that I've known her, she's been so kind and resilient. She comes in, she works hard. She always does extra work even without being asked. She helps me clean the classroom a lot, which I appreciated. Didn't have to ask her to do that either. She's just been so kind. She always has a great smile. You can tell she's nervous now, but normally she's smiling very beautifully. But Chloe, I just want you to know sometimes kindness can go unnoticed, but you are like radiating and you're just a beautiful person, and you work so hard that your kindness and your hard work will never go unnoticed. So continue to be as great as you are, and thank you. Miss Chloe Chapman, everybody. She's awesome.
Did you say it was credit to her dad?
Yes. Absolutely. She gets all of that from her dad. Harper Rudkowski, did I say that correctly? Well, it's a miracle.
Thank you for the opportunity to present this award. It is my pleasure to recognize one of our seniors, Harper Rutowski. I think I pronounced it better than you. But
Probably so.
Harper is an excellent student who takes pride in her learning and consistently does her best. She treats everyone with kindness and respect, is responsible and trustworthy, and looks out for others, helping make our school a warm and welcoming place. I always feel like that with you. Always welcome, always loved, always cared for. And I really appreciate that, my love. She truly represents the values we hope to see in all our students. I am proud to have you as my student. And actually for 2 semesters, so I am very, very blessed, very, very lucky to have you. You are wonderful, and I wish you your very best in the next future. I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you, my sweetheart.
Tate McGaha.
All right, this is my main man, Tate. Tate is an 8th grader at Swain Middle School. Tate is a super hardworking student who always takes his education very seriously. Tate has been after me since August. We've been working through it. He's been after me. When are you going to put me in Math 1, Mr. Mack? When are you going to put me in Math 1? Tate, you've been in Math 1. We put you in Math 1 last Monday, didn't we? Last Monday. So Tate is now in Math 1. So Tate does a wonderful job of speaking up for himself, asking for what he needs, and that says a lot about his character and maturity. Tate is also an employee of the Polar Express here in town. So even while working long hours at the Polar Express in town, Tate never fell behind on his schoolwork. He stayed caught up on assignments and kept giving his best effort, which again just shows his dedication and strong work ethic. On top of that, Tate has a wonderful sense of humor. He always likes to rib me as I'm coming down the hallway. So we have a good back and forth. But he's always respectful to his teachers and classmates, and he helps make our school a positive place to be, and I'm just so very proud of him. This is Tate McGaha.
Have we missed anyone this evening? Let's give them another hand, please. Now, as is usual, you're welcome to stay for the remainder of the evening if you would choose to, or if you would like to go somewhere and have ice cream, you can do that as well. I would go have ice cream if I was you. Thank you for coming, and be safe. Have a great evening if you're leaving. Tim Welch.
Okay, it's 10 after 5. We'll call our meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge and the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, Lord God, we bow our unworthy head before you this afternoon. God, thank you for this good day. Thank you for our students, Lord, our best and then some, Father. Lord, we thank you for our faculty and we thank you for our schools. Lord, we thank you for our community, Lord, and we ask you blessings on everything that we do and say, dear Heavenly Father, God, that you'd be pleased with our efforts, Lord. Ask your blessings on our school and on our faculty, Father. Lord, bless this meeting for your honor and for your glory. In your name we pray. Amen.
Brings us to the approval of the agenda. We do have, I know we have a couple amendments to make.
I believe that you would like to move closed session to the very end, correct?
Correct.
So that would move that down all the way past all of the action items. And we'll have no other activity or discussion out in the public after that, correct?
Correct.
So we'll close from there.
Yes.
I need to add a G to discussion, if we could, please. Would like to talk about some maintenance vehicle needs and a plan, and present that to you just for discussion and your thoughts. To my knowledge, those are the only pieces that we have to add.
Well, we're going to strike the policy 4004-5021 from approval out of action. It's first reading.
Yes, that's true. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Yes.
Any other adjustments?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the adjustments that were just made.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, all approved. Next is the approval of the consent agenda, personnel and minutes. We have a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. That's approved. Next is up is public comment, and we do have Miss Bree Crisp. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Bree, you'll have 3 minutes. Whenever you start, Cody, you'll,
Okay, I don't think I'll take the 3 minutes today.
that's fine. Just go right ahead.
Bree Crisp, you guys remember me probably from last month. But just to review, my daughter Brinley goes to Bright Adventures, trying to get OT services there. Currently, just to give you guys an update, we are going through the testing process to see if she qualifies for an IEP. Not expecting that she will, but just going to try that route. But I also was told that if she did qualify for an IEP, that OT is not a standalone service, meaning that she would have to have physical therapy or speech therapy to go along with that. So there's still a barrier there potentially. Then a couple things I just wanted to point out that was just in conversation last time. Clinically versus educationally relevant. So staying on task, being able to focus. I understand that she's 4, and it's probably not brought out to the same stance as, a high schooler or middle schooler, but she's going to get there. And I would rather put those interventions in place earlier. And she may not need an IEP, but are there services for kids who don't meet that criteria? There was a conversation about HIPAA. My understanding, and I think that Mr. Sell had said that as well, is that parents could sign a consent saying that the providers could talk to the school staff could talk to the providers. I do have a question. Will it change any current services? And I think this was brought up in your discussion last month. The answer was no, but I do have a further question to that. School-provided funds was kind of a big conversation. Maybe I just don't understand fully this. I am not sure if agencies like Appalachian Community Health Services, Youth Villages, Blue Ridge Health, Onalaneski, HOTS, they all provide services right now in the school system. Are there school funds that are delegated to them for those services? Or are there state funds? That was brought up last time. Or are those agencies able to come in the school system, meet with a child on school campus, pull them out of class, and bill their insurance for services rendered? That is what I'm asking. And to my knowledge, I will tell you that I used to be the school-based health nurse here at the middle school for Blue Ridge Health. I'm still employed by Blue Ridge, but just not at the school-based health center. I believe we received a grant to open the school-based health center.
However, when we called students down for counseling services, nurse visits, provider visits, that was strictly a billable service. That was nothing that the school, to my knowledge, provided funding for. And then just can I, as a member of the general public, get a list of those agencies that are provided services in the school system? I know a few just from being here, knowing other parents, but how do I go about that? And can I get that list? And then I did look up on DPI's website today, and it said for North Carolina, this is not specific to Swain County, that 13% of students in North Carolina have an IEP, and approximately 5% of those have a 504 that don't have an IEP. So I'm not sure exactly total numbers of students here at Swain County, but with that 14%, what happens to the other 86% of those students if they don't qualify for an IEP? What services are in place for them? So I do agree that there should be a policy in place for sure, but I think you need to take into consideration that 86%. Thank you.
Bree, if you'll get your contact information to Ms. Joanne, we'll get you those answers. Thank you. Next up, we're going to move into discussion, starting with personnel.
I don't believe that, is there any desire to go to closed session to discuss personnel?
No, sir.
Okay, I think that all of the personnel for this evening has been included in the consent agenda.
Okay.
So that would take us to the athletic budget update. Scotty McMahon is here to represent that.
Good evening. Got about a 20-page report there. There's some other things I've added to it, but this just kind of gives us our general way we've started tracking stuff. We had a little bit different one model the first time we met back in September, but we've kind of transformed it to make it a little bit more, I guess, readable and understandable. So as far as revenue and income, if you look at the page one of the first one, it's got some actual numbers to it. That's kind of our overall general, like, big ticket items as far as athletic costs go. We included uniforms in that and took that away from each team because the uniform stuff is not a yearly thing. We're not buying each team a different uniform every year, so we took that out of what you consider the budget number for that team. But that's pretty much everything that we've had, from clinics to huddle, things that we talked about earlier in the year. It's just added up, and that list is kind of built upon that. If you look at page 2, and this was something we started with back in July. Each team, it was broken down in 2 categories. There's a individual spending, or what we would like to spend budget-wise there. You can see on the left side of it, it has the July estimate there. Actual spending is there, so if you look in column 3, that's where we're at overall at this point. Now, went ahead and checked off the fall sports because those sports are completed, those seasons are completed, so we're not traveling with them anymore. We're not really buying any more equipment at this point in time. That gives you a percent total of what we were at as far as what we projected going into July and even in September. So that gives us an overall where we think we're at. Feel pretty good about that. The travel report's the same thing at the bottom. And if you look at the bottom, the top column, you can see what we estimated was 63 was the number. So far, the minus, that shows you what we are, we feel like we have an allowance to spend the rest of the year. Same thing for the travel. We've not really had, playoff-wise, I think we went to Corbion. That was pretty, other than meals, really wasn't much of an expensive trip. The cross-country was really the only thing for hotels. So the only time we really get in trouble with the travel spending is when we're having to go multiple nights. For instance, like this weekend, we'll have the girls be competing in the state championships. So we know ahead of time that that's a 2-day event. We're spending hotels, things like that. So where the state's kind of got us in a little bit of a bind is when they host events in places that are not geographically close, and we know we're going to be there 2 to 3 nights sometimes. So that's that. But that gives you the overall report of those 2 categories that we really hit on July and September, and that kind of gives you an update where we're at right now with those. So over the last few months, we have tried to figure out different ways to, what you call revenue routes or things like that. I think we've identified about 11 or 12. And again, those were our goals. The next page for the 25, 26 goals, that kind of gives you a layout of what we hope to bring in. That's where we think we're at right now. And then as far as completion goes on the right side, I know there was some discussion about gate totals, and it kind of varied. Some of the stuff we got was between 86 to 95 last year based off, stuff. We thought if we could get to 90. We still got 5 home games in basketball. We have 2 big track events that we actually get to charge for. We got another wrestling event, plus baseball, softball. So we feel pretty confident we're going to get to that goal of being that top one. Concession stands, that was another thing we looked at, was just cost of product, where we're at, trying to expand on the items we're selling. The hard part for us at the high school is the concession stand area is not big enough really to, I guess, maximize as much as you want to. We have to get kind of creative with what we're doing there. So we've actually had some parents that reached out to help us to, get some more items and help resource those items to be able to sell more stuff. Again, banner sponsorship stuff, same as it was back in September. That was kind of what our goal was. We went way above our goal in that. Season passes were down compared to last year, but a lot of that's been I think we've had more people come to the games. As far as just the progression of it goes. The merchandise sales, and I split them up into 2 different categories because between us and the Booster Club, it was more of a collaborative effort to sell as much items as we could. If you notice at the football games, we had 2 separate tents going up. So if you really add those 2 numbers together, that's what we have done, or available funds for merchandise-wise, which is something that we have not had, I guess, availability to in previous times. One thing I want to add about the Maroon Devil Network, if you see that, you see we're at 50%. Joe actually sent me some numbers the other day. We're actually at 100 more subscribers than we had this point last year, right, Joe, is that correct? It was 369, I think is what we were at. That should equate to about a $7,000 to $8,000 increase when it comes to, I think we returned about 12 to 13,000 last year off YouTube. So we're looking closer to 20,000 this year. If we could ever get to 500 subscribers, and you're looking at probably 30 to 35,000 extra a year just from the network itself. So the gate totals are good, network's up, so we feel like there's some extra revenue coming in that we haven't had from those aspects before. So, and a lot of it's just from a subscription standpoint, if you get 100 people at $6, $7 a piece, and you let it ride, right, Joe, for 12 months, then you can those numbers do start to add up. Some other avenues that we really hadn't talked about, we did the Leading Edge fundraiser back in November. It was a first-time deal doing it. It was basically you get all your athletes, and we had a lot of athletes sign up. I think we had 117 that were actually there in the gym, but we have to do a better job from our standpoint as coaches. Athletic department is pushing those kids, because all it is we get your contact information. I think I sent some of y'all the things, like you sent a flyer. This year's big hit was we're trying to cover costs of officials, equipment, all this. So the general athletic costs, we tied into that first one. But I think that's something that we can do to create competition, because the kids actually have the ability to go in there and sign up for whatever team they're currently on. It just so happened that it was in November, so you're at the tail end of the fall sports. Volleyball had been over with about a month, so most of the kids signed up for what sport? The winter sport. So I think if you broke that down over fall, winter, and spring, and the kids had a chance to sign up, it would generate for that each individual team and give them a little bit more of some secure funds that they haven't had before. So, any question on that? The donations and returns. We've had some people reach out that didn't really want to get necessarily involved with the leading edge stuff. So we've had some donations come in that we really weren't expecting, but that's always going to fluctuate year to year. The benefit tournaments, we've actually got 2 scheduled. Just kind of confirmed that last week. 2 tournaments plus a co-ed softball. So we're hoping between the 3 of those, we can get an extra anywhere from 75 to 1,500 or 15,000 generated brought back into us. So, any questions on that? But if you look at the bottom, that's what we feel like the new additional income is that number at the very bottom. So, next page just kind of gives you a gate total, what it costs us officials wise. As soon as that ball game's over with, we plug that number into a spreadsheet. It spits out our, where we're at, what we did on the night. If you notice there, football and basketball officials are pretty expensive. And that number's already counting in that we're gonna have to pay out for those officials for the next 3 weeks for basketball, but, the cost of officials is gonna continue to keep going up, so there's really, I'm hoping that our conference will decide to maybe increase ticket prices by, whether it's $1, $2. So a lot of times over the experiences we've had this fall, everybody's charging $8 to get into a basketball game. Football's charging $10 to get into a football game. I'm not saying we go from 7 to 10, but $1 here from the conference, because the conference sets the prices. But maybe $1 here would help with that cost of officials. But that's something that has to be decided by the Smoky Mountain Conference. It's not a Swain thing. But you can look, the game costs, we're already at $22,000. We're halfway through basketball, and we've not even got to baseball and softball yet. And then if you look at, when it gets to like the track stuff, time and equipment it's expensive. So we're trying to find ways to get more people to the track meets and things like that. And it does, when we have to travel so much and host things, it's where it's kind of hard sometimes to make up that difference. But we do have the ability to, when we go to Western and we go to Montreat in the spring, to bring in some revenue to help with that. So, any questions on that? Concessions, the next page. Again, that kind of goes, that middle column shows you what it costs us every time we purchase something from Pepsi or Cisco or Sam's. One thing I think's been it's not been a huge help, but it's an avenue that we haven't really went down before, was the card sales. So you're looking at about an extra $2,000 just off of swiping that credit card at the concession stand. And me and Ms. Hines have actually tried to talk about ways to make digital ticketing through Infinite Campus an option. It's just a matter of, correct me if I'm wrong, deciding what that percentage is, because there is a fee for us to have to use that. So there is, all right? Yeah. Okay, all right, so, but there is a little bit of a fee there, so we have to kind of decide where we are, what the happy window is for that, so. Any questions on the concession stand, sales, anything like that? Next page, and again, this is just kind of this is the overview of our spreadsheet stuff, so that kind of gives you the banner sponsors. Tells you what level they're at, contribution status, what they're bringing in, which, if you notice, we got a lot. There's 31 total, and that was something we figured out with the banners themselves, is we were spending a significant amount with this company because they have increased their prices. So we just went ahead and went through Vistaprint and cut that cost in about half is what it was going to cost us. So I feel like we can have the opportunity now to buy the same set of banners, have them in multiple locations. That way we're not having to constantly move them, transfer them, take them down. It makes it makes the place look a little better too. So the next page is other form of income, and this kind of gives you like a breakdown of everything possible from TV and radio to merchandise sales to donations, and we'll tie all 7 of those into that first column as well on the very first page, and just kind of feeds into that revenue stream that we have. And then the last few pages here, this is the fall sports is complete. This is something that we tried to, all right, so each team's got what we spent on them from a general athletic standpoint, equipment-wise. It shows you their gate revenue totals. It shows you the cost of officials, the times we had concessions for those games, what they brought in there. Other expenses include booking agent fees, travel expenses. So it's all tied into one formula that basically spits out that cost versus profit difference on the right. But all the fall sports are listed in there. You can take a look at those, and as you can see, attendance for some are obviously different, and then the opportunities for other forms of income as far as concessions are different depending on where we're at with the location of the game. And then the very last, I think, 3 pages here is something that we had done, we've continued with it, with the banner sponsor program, but it also, if you look on pages 2 and 3, it's going to, I think, allow us to have some different forms of sponsorship. And these are just a few of the ideas that we know we're going to put in place coming in the fall, whether it's end zone, chain gang, chair sponsorship. So there's 3 or 4 extra things that we believe that I think people will be willing to do if they had the opportunity to, so.
Scotty, does this have the paint machine in there?
No.
So that'll still gonna hit?
The paint machine is, we have found a way through,
We paid for that.
you go ahead and
through-
answer that one.
We paid for that by putting it into our capital expense.
Okay.
Now, in the future, there will still be the need for paint, supplies, and things like that, and I don't know how that'll work, but we were able to absorb that cost and do something else.
Very good.
Well, and the paint too is, you know, for a 5-gallon bucket, it's around $80-something. With the machine, you're getting the same amount of paint for $68. It's ready to use. And I mean, for this year's cycle, we'll have enough left over starting next year to where even if we had to buy 10 extra jugs, that's, by the time you ship it, maybe $1,000 compared to,
Yes.
That machine's more efficient.
yeah, I mean, it's just, so.
The time savings on it's enormous.
It's, once you get the technology aspects, it's pretty nice to have, so.
Anybody got any questions?
On Maroon Devil Network, you said 370-ish?
Yeah, 369, so what,
And this may just be a swag, but do you know about how many of those just let it ride all year versus turn it on or off?
he could probably tell you that better than I could.
I can't give you an exact number, but, and it'll be interesting because last summer is the best test. Because, you know, there's nothing going on. People are literally letting it ride and there's nothing going on. So, if memory serves, last summer, I think we carried about 140 subscribers through the summer. But again, like he said, this time last year, we were at 269, and that carried all the way through till graduation, and then they dropped. And so I'm hoping and I suspect, because we're doing this Let It Ride campaign, letting folks know, hey, just by ignoring it, letting it go, you're helping us tremendously, that we'll carry 369 this summer. That's the hope.
Anything else? Thank you, Scotty.
Thanks, Scotty.
Excellent.
Continuing with budget, we're going to jump a few levels and talk about the entire budget for the fiscal year of 2025-26. We're a little bit late on this year. There are a couple of reasons for that. One has to do with the fact that the state of North Carolina is the only state in the union to not have a state budget that's been adopted. And so we waited until we got some fair signs that probably is not going to change. Also, because of the federal budget shutdown for a period of time, our auditors were held back and that we're still being held back on a couple of things for that, particularly for their contract. But Millie has worked with Stephanie as our outgoing CFO and has put a budget together. You're going to see this year that the total budget number is significantly different than it has been in past years. I just need to emphasize, the reason that budget number is so different is because it includes all of the construction funding that has been allocated to our school system. So rather than a $30+ million budget this year, you're going to see an $80+ million budget. More than 50 of that is for construction. Okay? So turn that over to Ms. Hines.
Okay. So on this presentation, I'm just going to compare the proposed budget this year to the actual spend that we did last year. Oh, it works. So on this slide, you're going to see the overview of our state, local, and federal funding. Those top 2 bars represent this year's budget, expense, and revenue. And then the one below that is last year's actual spend. So I'll go over 10 and 20 in a minute, but for Fund 30, you see that there is a 1.28 million decrease in funding, and that is due to the expiration of the ESSER COVID funds that we got in 2020. This one is the overview of our Child Nutrition Fund and Special Revenue Fund. And there is an increase in special revenue. We did get a few grants which play into that, which is the Dogwood Leadership Grant, an additional Gear Up grant, and the Youth at Heart grant. And the funding sources of our SROs and safety equipment grants have moved from state funding to special revenue due to the legislative changes that happened this year. So in our state fund, there is a slight increase of $70,000, but that equates to about a 0.4% increase from last year. And the majority of our state funding goes into our regular curricular expenses. So as Mr. Sale said, the General Assembly has not passed a budget, but they did pass a mini budget in July of 2025. And that allowed us to go ahead and give step increases for our certified staff. It also has language in there that allowed the state to give us all of the allotments, so we do have that revenue coming in. They also increased our retirement rate and our health insurance rate for all of our full-time employees across all funds. And just for reference, for those expenses last year, before that increase happened, those two employee benefits accounted for 18% of our whole entire budget. And they have not increased our funding.
So we continue to get unfunded mandates.
Correct.
Like they're mandating increases, but not
And not
providing the
funding
funding to cover it.
So this year, this is covering our local fund, and this year we have been approved to receive $1.5 million from the county. The majority of that is going to be allocated to our operational costs. And then they've also added a special allocation for nurses and social workers so that we could keep them employed full-time after those expiration of the ESSER funds. And then they also cover some reading assistance for us. So Fund 40, as Mr. Sale was saying, this is the major change, driver of the change of our budget this year. The state did award us $52 million to build a new middle school, and the county is going to match 5% of that.
That's not hung up in any budget delays, is it? Or
No,
is that, okay.
That's
already
there.
been funded and?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yep. So now we'll go from our funding sources to changes in specific purpose allocations.
Real quick, for Fund
Yeah.
40, won't a bunch of that be 2027 spend though?
Yeah, so a lot of that is unallocated,
Okay.
but it's still sitting there. So one change this year was hiring a dedicated athletic director that isn't assigned classes. So you'll see that that funding moved from regular instruction to the co-curricular expenses. There's also appears to be an increase in alternative programs, but this year's budget compared to last year's original budget isn't much different. I believe the reason for the variance is 90% of this is allocated to salary costs. So we budget 100% and hope that happens, but doesn't always happen. So that's what accounts for the variance between this year's budget and last year's spending. We did have some decreases. There's a reduction in the budget for special populations due to the elimination of an EC coordinator position. The completion of the HVAC project is also reducing operational spend compared to last year. And that covers the majority of the big changes. Do you have any questions?
Questions, concerns?
So this year's budget largely mirrors last year's budget without the construction. And if you were looking at some of the fine print, you'll see that there is a potential for a revenue transfer out of local funding into that. However, that was there last year as well. And that's largely because of salary possibilities. However, last year, we didn't use any of that. You put that in, you budget 100% of employment, and you never have 100% employment for various reasons. Last year, we were actually able to have an increase in revenue to our fund balance of about $250,000 because of savings in other areas. So our budget is projected to be very similar to that. We just need to recognize that there are increases in insurance and also in retirement. And there still is the potential that the legislature could pass some type of a late salary increase of some sort. I haven't heard a lot of rumor about that, but in a superintendent's meeting last Friday, there was some talk about that and the concern that if that were to happen this late in the game, what that would mean to budgets all over North Carolina, because all of our salaries aren't paid by the state, and we would have to match that in different ways. I don't think that's anything to really lose a wink of sleep over, because I don't think the legislature is going to do anything until probably April, when they get back together for the short session. Okay?
If that happened, do you have to retro back?
Yes.
To the
Well, that would
July
depend upon,
1?
it would depend upon how they word that. The probability, though, Lisa, is that it would be retroactive to July.
Okay.
Yes.
We did build into a 2% increase just in case that did happen
Right.
across all salary
Okay.
lines.
Thank you for making that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions for Millie or myself? If we don't have the answers, we'll find them. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll ask you to approve that and as a resolution when we get to action items. We have some policies to look at. One of those policies is the one that Bree was speaking about a few minutes ago. Lisa and Barbara and I, along with our attorneys, have gone back and looked at that particular policy, and we have inserted some language that will allow organizations that are not funded through the school system or required by IEPs, 504s, that provide therapy services, to do so after the end of the school day, using a facilities use form. And then that would be scheduled. That allows for Bree and for others to have their children served that way through private providers of some sort. Okay, the one organization that is not covered in that is Blue Ridge Health, and that's because although Blue Ridge Health does give the opportunity for mental health services, that's the only therapy service that is provided, and we already had an existing agreement with them before this point, so they're grandfathered in to continue, okay? I think those are the primary points that have been changed in this particular policy. Lisa or Barbara, have I missed anything in that? Okay, all right. Since this is a new policy of sorts, and there's still a lot of discussion that may want to be had about it, this is going to be a first reading. I'm not going to ask for approval on it tonight. Thank you for reminding me of that, Mitch, a little while ago. I forgot. Because we want to make sure that we're doing our very best as a school system, but also staying within appropriate guidelines. You set those guidelines. Okay?
So I just want to recap that for my own clarification. I know you and I spoke a little bit about it, but just so, everybody else watching can understand too. We're saying that we would allow therapy service providers to use our facilities after school hours.
Yes.
Within the times that the building is open.
Yes, from about 3 to 5. And we may need to insert that language, Lisa. You mentioned that the other day, and I forgot to insert that. Okay, so from 3 to 5, we would allow that to happen. They would still need to fill out a facilities use request. And it has several items in it that removes liability from the school system for those services, but still allows the facility to be used. We do the same thing for basketball, youth basketball. Well, we do the same thing when anyone comes in and they want to hold a reunion. This is a standard form that you can find online.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or questions? We'll make sure and add that 3 to 5, okay?
Does that have any, when I say ripple effects, as far as staffing, anyone need to stay after?
Most of our principals stay until 5 o'clock. One of the elements that is in that particular policy is that if there is space and there is opportunity to have some type of coverage there. Now, in the facilities use agreement, there is the opportunity to pay for additional staffing as well if needed. Okay? Any other thoughts or questions? Another policy is the attendance policy, 4400, with a couple of adjustments I told you about last time. We needed to change 1/2 the school day to 51% because that's mandated by the state. We've changed two-way communication, for remote education, because it may be that the communication is not two-way at that moment. In other words, if a student sends their work by email, there may not be immediate response to that, okay? That's the only other piece that we've changed. And also, it allows the principal to assign a designee for some of these rather than being personally responsible for every single point of it. Like, for example, if there's some type of an attendance event that's going on, a mediation or something, and the principal wants to have a designee in that position, they can assign somebody to do that, okay? The changes in this also simplify some of the reporting expectations for the schools, and you can read down through there about what those are. We are still following the state mandated communication points of 3 absences, unexcused absences, 6 unexcused absences, and 10 unexcused absences. Those are state points. But somewhere between 6 and 8, we want an additional step, and that is an outside mediation group to come in, and at no cost, Heights will come in and will do that for us. And then they will help perhaps develop some type of agreement between the family and the school that can then be monitored from there, okay? That is a volunteer service.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
One is, did we say that we could get some sort of what it looks like for 51% of the school day? I think maybe I mentioned that to Sherry, but I can't remember. That's okay,
Yes.
and that's fine. I just, as a parent, because I think we discussed it, can be different for different schools,
It will
right?
be.
It might just be good to have something out there that, if you really are crunching time, that you know exactly, kind of how many minutes you're looking at for each school.
We did sort of a blanket statement, like you have to be there by 11. Because
Yeah.
it gets confusing if you have a student at different schools about what time, like, okay, the high school is 11:10, but, West Elementary might be 11:23.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we said 11 to be on the safe side. Is that what you were doing? And you can't leave before 12. I believe that's what we came up with, but I will double check.
Okay, because I was going to say, does that give the wiggle room for a student to come first thing in the morning, knowing that they have an appointment in the middle of the day? They come in the morning for X amount of minutes, they leave, they come back, because I think we tried that once, and so does that allow for that, adding the minutes that way?
No, but you would have to.
Depends on if it's not during
to
instructional
know
time.
Exact, like, you have to know the exact start time of the day. Most schools are 8, I believe the high school is 7:55.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to know the exact minute of the end of the day at that school, and then how much time you're gonna be gone.
So it's
I
like
mean, it
not
could be
impossible,
a-
but it's difficult to track.
Why wouldn't the minutes be cumulative, like if you left for part of the
They
day?
are.
They are.
Okay.
But
They are.
I think what she's saying, if you came, say, for half the first period, you went to the dentist, and then you came back,
Yeah.
what time would you have to come back with that first part, and then that second part add up?
Yeah.
More than
And
51%.
it depends, is it a late day, and, is it an early release day? There's lots of
There are a lot of variables.
Yeah.
But I think,
But you could always call the data manager at the school and we could figure it out for you, whoever's there. If, you know,
Okay.
when you pick them up, we made a little chart, so we could figure that out.
Okay, so it's not impossible to do.
It's not.
Might just need to have a little planning ahead of how that's gonna work. Okay. And then I do have another question about, when we talk about excused absences and parent, specifically parent notes, when a student is missing for, let's say, 2 days, with a parent note, does one parent note count for both of those days, or is one parent note for each day?
one parent note counts per day.
Okay, okay.
And I believe that that is stated in the handbook. Correct? Yes.
Okay,
Okay. It's a good question.
thank you.
And yeah, we can calculate, on a normal day, the number of minutes that are expected. Okay?
Yeah, once you're kind of dealing with a
Yes.
specific situation and you know if it's a short day or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and lunch, you know, depends on if you're back.
On their lunch or when or anything like that.
And lunch is put in their schedule in the correct period, even if so lunch is, because when we first went into campus, they would take lunch off the top.
Mhm.
No matter what time you got to school, lunch came off 20 minutes. So they made this where you pick lunch 1 or lunch 2, or at the elementary, there's lunch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And so it's put in so it calculates correctly in the computer. As close as we did.
Yeah.
anyway.
Sure. Thank you.
Should we add a provision, on like if it is gonna be a multi-day excused absence, where they could write one note to cover it? Like say they're gonna be gone for a week-long trip or something, obviously they're not gonna be able to write a note every day and get it to anyone.
I think I'll say this just from experience, I think they can write a note for that. I think I was just clarifying, does that count as one note, or does that count as several days? Does that make sense?
And maybe we need to articulate this more accurately, okay? A parent note can be written for as many days as they would like to write it, but each day is one parent excuse,
Yeah,
okay?
that's a better way to say it.
And maybe we'll look at how that is worded so that we can minimize confusion, okay? Thank you for making that point. Anything else on that? The only other policy is policy 4060, which has to do with Native American policies and procedures. Really, the only changes right now in that policy are the dates. Barbara and I were looking through it again this afternoon. We found 2 places where we should have put 2027, and it said 2026. So we immediately changed it and put it back online, okay? The substance of that policy is exactly the same as it was last year, okay? Any thoughts or questions about that? We'll ask for approval on that and 4400 in a little while, if we could, please. One of the things that we have not done in Swain County for a while is allow, or even, well, let's just say allow retesting after EOGs and EOCs. And the districts around us, almost to the letter, have been allowing that. And they have found that by doing so, there are several outcomes. But one of them is that there is an increase in the proficiency numbers that are coming out of their schools. I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One of those reasons may be not everybody tests perfectly well on this Tuesday. You know, who knows what happened the night before, or maybe they came to school with a fever. And so this gives them an opportunity to retest. The state put some extra provisions around that this year that only allow students who do not receive a proficient score to retest. Before, you could make a 4 on an EOC, and if you weren't satisfied, you could retest to try to make a 5. That's not allowed anymore, okay? So we put that in place at the high school for EOCs this fall, and our intent is to make that across-the-board option available at the end of this year. I've asked Amelia Allman to come and to talk to us about what the results of the retesting has shown at the high school, just to keep track of that, okay?
Good evening.
239 students took the state EOC exams this semester in Math 1, Math 3, Biology, and English 2. Out of the 239 students who tested, 126 were non-proficient. About 53% of our students were not grade level proficient according to the state, to reiterate that point. Out of the 126 who were non-proficient, about 40% of those students and families opted to retest. 18 of those were students in our EC program. Out of the 50 who retested, 58% grew. Of those, 34% went from non-proficient to proficient. Math 1 scores, originally 85 of those students were non-proficient. Afterwards, 16 retested. 3 students scored proficient after retesting. 6 students grew on average 34 percentile points, and 1 student scored level 4 after testing, moving from non-proficient to college and career ready. For Math 3, about 19% of those students were non-proficient. 5 students grew on average 32 percentile points, and 4 students scored proficient after retesting. Our biology scores, about 66% of those students were non-proficient, about 25% retested. 4 students scored proficient after retesting, and retesters scored on average 8 more points. English 2. So our scores for English 2 are delayed because there are constructed response items and they're scored by hand. So we didn't get those scores until late in December and teachers had already gone on break. So we were able to input those, work with that data, and plan to retest by January 23rd, but we've already done that. 23% students were non-proficient in English 2. 2 opted to retest, only 1 retested, and I checked for those scores today and they're not in yet. So I'll be happy to share that data whenever I have it. My conversations with students prior to retesting and after retesting were, if they improved, were that they simply tried. Usually, or sometimes, the first attempt, they don't take it as seriously. So when they were awarded the second attempt, they, of course, put forth more effort. Our biggest hurdle has been communicating the difference between what the state deems proficient and the score, the LEA score or grade that they are given. So, for example, the grade may be an 80, but according to the state, that is not proficient. And that formula that they use has not been shared with us. We've requested that, but they have not shared it with us. It's some complex algorithm that they use to determine that. And there are various cut points for proficiency levels that differ according to whatever test it is. Do you have any questions?
Is that different? Like, say, the proficiency point may be different for math than it is for biology?
Correct. Yes, correct.
And a student can be non-proficient in their test, but still pass the class.
Yes, which has been really hard to communicate to
Yes.
families.
Yeah,
Yes.
we discussed that with Heather one time. She came in and
Yeah.
gave us analysis.
With eighth grade math, you have to score above the 84th percentile. Yeah, you're making it worse. 86th percentile in order to be proficient. That means that if you were in a line, 86% of the kids are not proficient.
Like on Math 1,
Okay.
that's 85% said non-proficient.
Right.
How does
Yes.
that compare with like Graham County, Macon County?
That's a good question. I'm happy to look into that and get you all that data. Till the summer?
And
So-
we can look at last year's. We have last year's comparisons.
Because I understand the points of proficiency and the score and all that, but I just wonder, taking that into account, how does that compare with our surrounding
Okay.
counties?
Which means hypothetically, if they're passing the class, like their GPA, they're still getting the points for their GPA even if they're showing non-proficient.
Correct.
It's like, it's really, it's a little confusing.
It reflects on the school's report card, the proficiency.
The proficiency, not if they're passing the class.
Right, exactly.
So if we got 85% non-proficient, what are we doing with those students? Do they move on or do we remediate?
If they're passing the class after their exam score has been put in, then yes, they are promoted.
Because they might be making a 75 or an 80 on their exam. probably, what would you say, Amelia, maybe 20% really fail the score of the class.
Right.
The exam score.
I want to say something like the 18th-ish percentile on the EOC is still passing as a grade with their conversion, so it's still a
The
D.
60.
Yeah. So you could be in a pretty rough percentile group and still pass the test with their conversion.
And that only counts 20% of the grade.
The test?
Yes, the test, it counts as a final, it counts 20% of the grade. That's state mandated.
I have a different question, it's not exactly related to retesting, but like, math one, what does that equate to? I mean, is that geometry, is that freshman math, like, what grade level are we talking for math one?
So, well, they take Math 1, or they have the option to take Math 1 in 8th grade. And then if they don't take it in 8th grade, in the 9th grade, they take it. As far as like what specific concepts it covers specifically, I know there are several. I'm happy to get that information to you
Ryan,
as well.
Do you know the large concepts?
Well, it's a lot of transformations, lots of slope intercept, that type of stuff. The biggest thing between math 1 and 8th grade math, which I don't know why it's the way that it is, but it goes back to the test. The math 1 window for proficiency is much wider. So I'll have students, and I've got data I can show you. I have students that on the 8th grade math test won't be proficient, but if they took the math 1 test, their numbers were much more higher to pass that test. I had students last year, their projections, they weren't going to pass the 8th grade math test, but if they would take the math 1 test, they would have passed. So it's I think it's a larger issue in the state.
And I think Math 1 covers like geometry
It's very-
and algebra,
they're
like it's a blended,
It's a
right?
blend.
Like an
Yeah.
There
integrated.
are a couple topics that don't get covered in the 8th grade math curriculum that are introduced with the math 1 curriculum.
So out of these 47 that tested, part of them would be 8th grade, part of them would be
No, this is all high school.
all high school. Ryan, did you have any take math 1, the test in 8th grade?
So I've got 26 in, so we give ours year long.
Okay.
It's not
Okay.
So it's, even though it is a semester class, we still give our 8th graders it the whole year. And our numbers have been really high as far as 8th grade math goes. Those students that qualify for math 1 as 8th graders, they scored a level 5 on their 7th grade EOG. So, we're mandated, if they make a level 5, they're automatically put into that math 1. Now, they do have the option to not take math 1, but they're automatically put in math 1. And then to also fill those spots, some students that even if they didn't make a 5, but they made a really high 4, will also fill spots in math 1 with that. So it's a little bit different, but ours is given year long, the math 1.
So that kind of brings me to a question. Is there data that would show, and maybe not specifically the middle school and the high school, but maybe comparing other high schools, that would show what it looks like in scoring for a math 1 to be done in a semester versus the whole year?
I don't know. I don't know of any high schools that offer math 1 across a whole year, particularly when you're considering a block schedule. We used to when we had a freshman academy. And we could go back and we could look at the comparison of scores then.
Yeah, because one of the schools we toured did something similar. Henderson, one was in Henderson, did something similar where they did, that may have been a middle school, but where they kind of did all the, and I just don't know if that's worth comparing and seeing, like if we.
We had skinnies, we had math, what we do, math and English.
Math, English, and then they had a career or something, and each of those were, if that was the academy days, they were 60 minutes each, they took a half a day. One of the complicators with that is that it really locks up some staff and requires more teachers in those areas in order to meet
Sure.
scheduling complications.
Yeah.
We're in discussion with that for moving into next year, kind of looking at different approaches with that, how we can build a schedule and offer courses to kind of combat that. So if we've got a group coming in that's highly not proficient, coming out of the middle school into the high school, we can kind of strategically put in place, like, you're going to take a foundations of math
Yes.
course in the fall before you're going to take math 1 in the spring.
That's great.
And those, it still counts as a math credit, so it's not like that foundations of math still counts as a math credit that they're they take, so it's not like it destroys anything or
Right.
wrecks anything.
Yeah.
But it kind of puts that little added step in place to maybe benefit and kind of curb that, so, but yeah, like Mr. Sell was saying, that takes
Sure.
a little schedule, reworking some personnel, space, stuff like that, so we're definitely looking at that moving forward, how to combat that.
Yeah, which would be worth it if we could get our proficiencies up. I mean, I say that from somebody that does not do scheduling, but you know what I'm saying? Like if that made a huge impact, I mean,
It's better for the student, too.
yeah, I think it's worth looking at.
Great idea. I'd like to delve deeper in this. I'd like, if you could come back and revisit this and show us how we compare with the counties around us.
Well,
They're on the same criteria that we're on, right?
yes, we all have the same curricular expectations, standard expectations. And you'll see that there are some who are standouts in some of these areas. I'm not mistaken, we spoke to some math teachers in Yancey County. Sun Valley, which is just down, which is where my grandson is going to go. Just saying. I think it would be worth us to pull those numbers worth the time. We may even already have some of that taken care of, and we can share that with you.
I
Okay?
mean, Math 3 looks great. Math 1 looks,
Math 1 is a struggle. And it's an increasing struggle.
And part of that is that we offer a different amount of courses, like you may only, like English 2, we only have 2, I think, classes this time. Math 1 is heavy in the fall.
Yes.
Where Math 2 is, or Math 3 is not, and the next time in the fall, in the spring will be a lot of Math 3. So right now, you're only getting a piece, where at the end of the year, in May, June, you'll see all of it together.
Tyler, Eric, about how many do you have, how many freshmen do you have right now? Just round number.
120-ish.
Okay. Ryan, how many eighth grade students do you have in Math 1?
26.
Okay. Those 26 students will take Math 1 at the middle school, and they'll have a 90% pass rate, proficiency. You don't get to count those as freshmen. So that's like taking your top varsity players and moving them up, your top junior varsity, and moving them up to varsity, and then counting the scores of the junior varsity without them. Okay? You have to remember that these numbers are just a little bit skewed because of that. But it's better for the student, and we're also required by law, if they make a 5, we have to give them the opportunity to progress. Okay?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thought you might enjoy that. It's good information. Lydia Sale, I don't know who put Lydia Sale on this. Must have been me.
I'll take responsibility.
Okay. Lydia Lundy has been given the opportunity to participate with a policy group with the other Regional Teachers of the Year in Raleigh, and she has a project that she is supposed to complete. She would like to talk to you about that this evening. I think that what she's providing is a wonderful opportunity, and that's not just because she's my daughter. Okay?
Hello, everybody. I'll try to go quick. I'm used to working with short attention spans, so I'll try to move through it pretty fast here. But I was just going to reiterate what he said. Thanks to the Borough's Welcome Fund, I'm participating in the Education Policy Fellowship Program through the Public School Forum in North Carolina. And a lot of that work focuses on understanding how policy decisions actually show up in schools. So in February, we're actually going to meet with our representatives up in DC, and we're going to be advocating, my group's actually going to be advocating for a heftier amount of loan forgiveness for teachers that work in rural areas. So those are just some of the things that we're working with. Will that actually happen? I don't know, but we're sure going to try. But where we started was with a local policy project, and I hate calling it a project because I don't want this to be something that's proposed that we pick up and put down, because I think it's something that can be really beneficial to our district. They challenged us to look at things that may be a glaring issue or areas that you see can just benefit the system as a whole, and that's what I really want to talk about tonight. I spent some time looking at our 2024 Teacher Working Conditions Survey, and something that stood out to me right away is how positive the results on that were. Over 90% of teachers report that that Swain County is a good place to work and to learn. There's a lot of pride going on in our schools, strong leadership and commitment to our students. It also highlights some areas where there can be growth within our district. Teachers are seeking more alignment around time spent with paperwork, professional development selection, budget awareness, and staffing selections. And to me, those data points don't come off as points of contention, but they come off as a willingness for teachers to contribute and help make decisions within their district. They want to amplify, teachers want to amplify their voice. So why I'm here, I want to propose the creation of a teacher advisory council. This would be a council that works directly with the board and the superintendent. It would be a small representative group of teachers who can provide real-time classroom level insight to the board and superintendent on initiatives that are being considered. There are many committees already existing, but my goal with this council would be that it's just to streamline information processes both ways. So teachers reporting to you all, and you all giving your reasoning to teachers as well. I think that can really clear up some communication. From my perspective, it seems like a pretty low-risk, high-reward opportunity for us. It gives you guys feedback from the people that are working with our kids every single day. And while sometimes things may seem really great in concept, whenever you put them into practice, that can change just a little bit. So I'm happy to get this started. I'm happy to work with you all. I'm not asking for you to say, yeah, let's create it tonight. Let me know about it tomorrow. I'm asking at an upcoming work session or any other time that we could sit down and talk about logistics, who would be a part of the committee, how it would work, when it would meet, and just kind of iron out those decisions that would need to be made with it. I've received a lot of feedback from districts across the state with my Regional Teacher of the Year committee, cohort, about how their teacher advisory councils work because they are all on one. And I know Mitchell County added one this year. I know how the governor's teacher advisory committee is working. So I feel like I can provide some insight into those areas. And I think it would just be a natural step for a district that's already doing a lot of great things and can open up some communication both ways.
I think it's fantastic.
Something for you all to consider. Mitch, a way that you may want to consider as chair of approaching this after you all have some conversation, if you want to, is to appoint 2 members of the board to be on the advisory council committee. And you are certainly actually within your rights to do that if you decide that that's a direction that you want to go. Okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
I asked to add section G to discussion. Tommy has put together a replacement plan for maintenance vehicles. Many of our maintenance vehicles are, they're wheezing in their existence. We need to do something. Some of them, I just prefer our guys not be using. And in order for us to approach those needs, we can't do it all at one time. It's too big, in my opinion. Tommy has put together a yearly plan. It's a little heavier investment in the first couple of years. After that, it doesn't quite hold the same financial or budgetary impact. Tommy, if you want to come and talk about that and your thoughts on this, I am not asking for a decision on this. I'm asking for you to think about it, and then let's plan a course of action, perhaps by next month, okay?
All right.
get this thing to spin up. I thought I had it up already. Come on, spin. First off, at first glance, y'all have any questions looking at what you have in front of you? It's pretty straightforward, and tried to arrange it to where we're going in a 7-year rotation. I've taken care of this stuff over 7 years, and there's some of the things you wouldn't replace every rotation, like the, when it got back to it in 7 years, like the dump truck that we need to buy sooner rather than later to replace the 87 model that's on there. The one it won't take us, we might be able to get 2 rotations out of it, maybe able to get 14 years. I mean, we've had this one for a lot longer than that. But the regular vehicles that we're using, one of the issues and one of the reasons that I feel like that we're ending up in a bind is that we're keeping things just well beyond their use. And if we will cut bait with them every 7 years or so, then we can actually get something for it when we go to sell, rather than seeing if we're going to get somebody to show up from a crushing outfit to come buy something for crush weight, because that's what we've been doing, is running them until there's nothing left, is what we've traditionally done. And it looks like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, and I'm not saying that it's not, but I don't see any other option with what we got, with what we're facing. And if we have a plan laid out to achieve this, we can put our people in safe, dependable vehicles that will allow them to get work done for us and in an appropriate way.
Whatever happened, you know, we were talking about leasing instead of buying, on that Proposition 70 had a while back.
Yes.
And some of these seem like they might be good candidates just because they're gonna be low mileage, low hour type vehicles.
And that's one thing. Leasing is something that is a possibility on some things for us. I think where it isn't for other stuff, because we don't, 7 miles back and forth from one place to another, it takes a whole lot of those to get you up over 1,000 miles a month, you know? And that's basically your bridge for low mileage leasing is like 1,000 miles a month. So, I
Well,
mean,
some of
that's
those, I
possibility.
think when we looked at it, some of those, we were, was 5 years and it was leased to own, too. So, I mean, it's always something we could look at, because if you owned it after 5 years, you know, that'd be, and it's 7 years for the cycle, that's 2 extra years you're getting, you know, so, but it's something we could look at if that payment was as good as buying it outright.
As buying it outright, what it would be.
I
The other
remember one
thing
of the
is,
drawbacks to that leasing though that we were talking about, they required a very high limit of insurance.
Yeah.
That's what blew it out of the water.
You know.
yeah, and that's stuff that's not my end of the deal so much. I don't understand, you know, the insurance parts and all that. I don't know. I don't know about those things. That's not something that I play in. The leasing part, in terms of mileage, makes sense. The issue with that also is the conditioning and the things that you've got to do with them and everything through that whole thing. It's beyond maybe what our fleet stuff has traditionally been, which may be why we're where we're at.
We definitely got to make a move though.
Yeah, we've got to do something.
Tommy, have you kind of got these categorized as what we would need to replace first?
Yeah, if you'll look at the column, I think it's maybe the 4th column over. It has why this thing has decided it doesn't want to talk to me today, I have absolutely no idea. It says replace, and it has a year on it. It'll say something like 26, 27, or 25, 26.
Okay.
Like there's 2 right there at the top, it says 25, 26, replace this year. For those 2, an approximate prices for what we could do to severely upgrade in that particular one. That is an actual quote that I've gotten back from Mountain Ford, and that's another thing, guys, I don't know if y'all are Ford Chevy people, I drive Fords, everybody knows it, but that's not why I put a F-250 on there, it's because I believe it's important for us to stay local. That's something that does matter to me. You know, keeping money in our community is something that's important to me. So I got that quote from Mountain Ford. I haven't got a whole lot of other ones. We do have some fleet things that we can look at also. We got in looking and preparing for this, I worked in conjunction with these guys up here in their finance department, and we now have the ability to buy for fleet pricing through Ford directly, also in addition to what we can get through the state. So that's going to give us, like, you can't go down there and buy an F-250 for that quoted number that's on that sheet.
That's right.
F-254 drive, you can't do it.
Which is the one that we just, had to
Purchase the
put-
motor for
One-ton
them.
dump truck.
Yeah, that we had to put a bunch in for maintenance.
Yeah, it's down there.
slated for
It's
30,
a
31.
04.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We're hoping we should be
So
able to
that's
get
gonna last us
that.
a few more years, hopefully.
Yeah, should,
Okay.
should. And the other thing is that, there's one thing I added on the bottom down there about a trailer, because I feel like it might help us about the way that we take our mowing equipment from one place to another and be able to keep everything together in terms of storage and everything else. So, I mean, there's some things that I feel like that we have that are needs. It does cost money, but that's just the price of doing business.
So it's really just those first four that would be the initial buy of this, right?
Yes.
Yes. And then you think about looking at anything where you buy. In 7 years, and you basically, you're trading something in, and then they're gonna resell it or whatever the case may be, you're gonna get something back for it. So in 7 years, we're actually trading in something that's still an asset and not as much of a liability as what we have now. Let's say 7 years from now, something's got, I don't know, 50,000 miles on it, which is very, very attainable. And we traded in with in 7 years, fleet maintained with 50,000 miles on it. We're going to get some return on investment to cut down the investment for the next round. So I think that's another thing to consider, is the fact that we can keep ourselves from having to be hit as hard as we move forward.
But Casey mentioned whoever was interested in leasing, we can certainly look into that.
I'm open to all options.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like Earl said, the insurance is kind of why that stalled out.
Yes.
But it does, bring up a good point with we're well under the mileage thresholds, and it kind of automatically keeps you in a newer vehicle, which would be good, it sounds like, for this.
And I believe when we talked about leasing before, there was some kind of stipulation they had to do the maintenance on it. I can't remember.
There's a maintenance
There's gotta be an
piece in that has to be guaranteed, and I don't remember exactly how that worked.
Yeah,
Orel.
you gotta take it to an approved vendor, but they were willing to approve vendors in our area to accommodate that.
Well, and to Tommy's point, if we stay local, then probably have that covered.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's valuable.
Absolutely.
And typically, where does this money come from?
That would be the next question. And if this is a direction that you are interested in us moving, and I would encourage you to, we need to look at what kind of fund sources we have for this. Obviously, we always have the possibility of Article 46, because this is correct, because this would be a capital purchase. Is that right, Millie?
Yes.
Yes?
They are considered.
Okay. But we also, I think, should look at some other options that include, is there any lottery funding that we could use for this as well? And I don't know right now. I know there's one bucket of lottery funding that would be available for this, okay? There are two, one that is not, and I think there's one that probably is not. Another is, we could make these purchases contingent upon revenue that is saved at the end of the budget year. Last year, we were Millie and the group were able to save $250,000. Well, if you were to take $100,000 and purchase a couple of vehicles with that, then you're still to the positive. Those are all elements to be considered. I think the first step for me was, do you want to go this direction? The second step is then let's look at our options and have another conversation and decide where that funding's going to come out of.
I mean, 1987 is not gonna last forever.
I don't say, I think
We gotta
the
replace it.
first question's answered.
We've got
We
to-
definitely gotta move.
We got the good out of it. We got the good out of it. Somebody
wife
else
may
may
say
use
you
it
need to
for
be
10 more
replaced.
years, but I don't know that it needs to be us.
Tommy, so I see they're kind of in order by when they're due for replacement.
Yes, sir.
Would that also, that's kind of in line with how, like if you had to only pick one vehicle from the list or whatever, they kind of prioritize that way as well?
Yes, sir. I went with, and tried to keep it, like we said, in some type of budget bands. The first 2 years are a little bit heavier because I feel like that we got a couple that are just more needy. There's one truck on that list that the bed is so rusty that it's fell down and there's a shock sticking through the top of it where the shock tower come through the bed.
It's true.
And where, it's a true story.
You
I
could
mean,
also
we-
just, you could put these in your maintenance budget, you know? We build a maintenance budget, we're getting ready to start building a maintenance budget for,
Yeah.
06, 07. Just put this in as one of your line items, and build it in.
So would it be fair to have, like appropriate to have, say, like you and Millie look at that and
Yes.
see kind of just what are maybe some options, and then we
Yes.
go back to the
We'll-
list
we'll-
and see what makes the most sense, maybe?
Yeah,
Is that how you would do that?
I would suggest that, let us bring you options, and then you all just say, this is the one we want, and then we make it work, okay?
Work on that surplus from budget at the end of the year. The surplus, it still has to fit into the category that we can purchase vehicles out of, right?
Yes,
It's not
yes.
just
However, the funding that goes into the fund balance generally is out of 80, or it's out of 80, because none of that would come out of 20. So
Maybe
that,
to be used.
yes, that can be used pretty much anywhere that's legal. Okay?
And we've tried to be good stewards and use them up. We haven't bought anything in the 4 years that I've been doing this maintenance in terms of, well, nothing. We bought nothing.
So we don't normally we don't normally have one that we replace every year, so it'd be good
No,
to
ma'am.
stay on a.
There's never been a plan for this, and it's been a mistake not to be on one.
Yeah, sure.
We'll bring that to you in February. Okay?
Are grants a possibility for this too?
It's a possibility. To be truthful, I've never really looked for grants for this type of thing. The Western Regional Educational Service Alliance, we call them RESA, has a grant person. And it would be a simple one-line email to ask Dr. McDarris to find us some grants for this, and he will kill himself doing it. That's what he loves to do. So I'll make that happen in the morning. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mitch, I think that's
Moving on to
everything.
action.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay, I recommend that the Swain County Board of Education approve the consent agenda, including all the personnel and the minutes from the December 8, 2025 and December 23, 2025 meetings.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right.
I also recommend that the Swain County Board of Education approve policy 4400 and the annual revision of policy 4060, which is the Native American policy and procedures.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Approved.
I recommend that the Swain County Board of Education approve the 2025-2026 school year budget resolution.
Motion.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand.
There's all types of information underneath that. I don't have any plans to call any special meetings, although construction is spinning again. Had a conversation with Nate Bowe today about water and sewer, and as soon as I have a little more information, I'll bring you all up to speed on that, and we may need to talk officially soon about that. Also, I have a call with Emily Kite probably tomorrow to find out exactly where they are, because they're continuing to work as well. Need to put on everyone's radar, yours, theirs, anybody who might still be watching this meeting, that we are beginning to plan what to do about after school for the next school year. And one of the elements that we are strongly considering and talking about and need for you to be involved in soon as well is that there may need to be a daily student charge on that. I don't have figures right now on what after school is costing. We'll put those together, and then we'll talk about, is that something that you as a board want to pursue? And if so, how? I think that a sliding charge would be our best interest in that, but I don't have any numbers right now. I just want that on your radar, and if the community wants to talk to you all about that, I think it's appropriate, okay?
Or could you include in that how many students we're talking about?
Well, all I can tell you is kind of what we're doing right now, all right? Barbara, can you tell us about how many students we're serving in after-school?
The total number I don't have off the top of my head, but we're around 15 to 17 students in all grade levels, elementary and middle, and we've got 15 in pre-K. So I don't have that number off the top of my head, but,
15 to 17.
and we have a youth waiting list that is still a waiting list. So it's definitely a large need. We just wanted to put this on a FYI so that you guys can be thinking about it, so that when we come to you in the next meeting to really have a discussion about it, I wouldn't be surprising you with information. But I can also stats about how many are enrolled and what grade levels, so I can have that all for you guys.
No decisions, just start the conversation and thinking, okay?
Because I just want to also mention the grant that has historically been applied
Thank you.
for is not available to apply for this year. We didn't receive it last year, but it's not available to even apply for this year. This is the off year.
So in a year from now, then potentially we would apply for the next 2 years, is that right? Okay, but we're saying that in the fall, that year that's starting, there's no grant we can apply for that? Okay.
Casey, are there other grants? I don't know. It's a possibility, because after school is needed everywhere. Another piece of that is staffing after school. You know, that's why we have a waiting list in a lot of places, okay? Also need you to know that we're in the process of working on the 26-27 school calendar. I have a meeting with a curriculum council tomorrow, teachers, to start talking about that and their thoughts. Would love your input on that as well. Your thoughts, what the community may be saying to you about that. As we get into that, Mitch, I may ask that we have a member of the board come and help us create the final model, okay? Right. The audit contract with our, what's the name of the company that does our? They will have an audit contract to you hopefully next month. It's been held up because of federal government and some other issues. Local Government Commission has, that's right, and that's in Raleigh. They haven't they're just dragging their heels in Raleigh right now, okay? You can see that last year the cost was $35,000. They've increased it, or they're projecting an increase of $250 for this coming budget year. But we don't have a contract for that. All right, that's something that we have to have. There was an RFP that was put out for that last year. Yes, and they were the selection. Okay, just want to keep you abreast of that. Okay, all information. Any questions? That's all of the agenda items. Mitch, I believe y'all would like to go to a closed session now.
Yes, do I have a motion that we move into closed session?
I'll make a motion for the Board of Education to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143, 318.11 under subsection A1 and 5 to prevent the disclosure of privileged or confidential information.
Second. All in favor, stand up. Bye.
Look up a number.